All right, hey everyone, get ready because today we are diving deep into Anthropic's brand new Claude 3.7 Sonnet model. Yeah, and we've got articles from TechTarget and PC Mag, announcements from Anthropic, and even Analon Web Services. Oh, and plus a super interesting post from the DEV community. And all this stuff points to one thing. This isn't just your average AI upgrade. This is something completely different and maybe even better than anything we've seen before.
So what's really fascinating about Claude 3.7 Sonnet is it's a fundamental shift in how AI models work. Anthropic calls it a hybrid reasoning model. Basically, it's designed to bridge the gap between standard LLMs, which are really fast and efficient, and reasoning models, which are super deep and analytical.
Okay, so what does that actually mean? Like, what does it mean to be a hybrid reasoning model? What's so special about that?
Well, think about it this way. You know how traditionally AI models have been specialized? You've got one for generating text, one for crunching numbers, another one for recognizing images. But Claude 3.7 Sonnet wants to be like a universal tool, a single model that can handle a wide range of tasks without needing to switch hats.
So it's like instead of having a separate AI for writing code and another one for like explaining physics problems,
hmm
Claude 3.7 Sonnet can do both. That sounds incredibly powerful, but also really complex. How does it even work?
That's where the hybrid part comes in. So it combines the strengths of two different approaches. Standard LLMs, which are great at things like text summarization and language generation, and then also reasoning models, which excel at problem solving and logical deduction. And by integrating both of these into a single model, Anthropic has created something really unique.
Wait, so doesn't that mean that they're trying to mimic the way the human brain works? Like we don't have separate brains for different tasks, right? We use the same brain to write a poem or solve a math equation or even debug a piece of code. Is that what Anthropic is trying to achieve here?
Yeah, you could say that. I mean, Claude 3.7 Sonnet is definitely taking inspiration from the human brain's ability to switch between different modes of thinking. It's a bold move for sure, and it has the potential to unlock a whole new level of AI capability.
This is what gets me excited. We're not just talking about small improvements here. We're talking about a potential paradigm shift in AI development.
Right.
Like if Claude 3.7 Sonnet can really bridge the gap between language processing and reasoning, oh man, that could open up so many possibilities.
Exactly. And one of the most exciting parts of this new model is its ability to think on different timescales. Anthropic describes it as having two distinct modes, a standard mode for quick responses, and then there's an extended thinking mode for when you need the model to really, dig deep and analyze a complex problem.
So it's like having two different gears in your brain. One for quick thinking and another for when you need to really put your mind something, like when you're trying to solve a tricky puzzle or write a really hard piece of code.
Exactly. And the coolest part is that developers who are using the API can actually set a budget for thinking tokens, and that way they can control how much time and computational power the model actually dedicates to a particular task. It's about balancing speed, cost, and how deep of an analysis is required.
Wow, that's fine-grained control. But okay, let's talk about the part that has everyone really buzzing, which is Claude Code. I mean, we've already seen AI dipping its toes into coding, but Claude Code seems to be taking it to a whole new level.
Yeah, it really is. So we're talking about an AI that can do more than just generate small pieces of code. Claude Code can search, read, and understand existing code. It can edit files, write and run tests, and even push code to GitHub. Basically, it's like a developer's sidekick, automating a lot of the tedious and time-consuming tasks that coders face every day.
Hold on, so it's not just generating code, it's actually interacting with the whole development environment. That's a huge leap forward in terms of what we call agentic functionality. But what does that even mean for the future of software development? Is this the beginning of the end for human coders? Or is it more of a collaborative partnership? What do you think?
Yeah, that's the question everyone's asking. And honestly, it's too early to say for sure. But what we can say is that Claude Code has the potential to change the way software is developed. Just imagine a world where AI handles all the grunt work, and that allows human developers to focus on higher level tasks like design and problem solving.
Okay, yeah, I admit that sounds pretty tempting. But before we get too carried away with dreams of this AI coding utopia, let's talk about safety and reliability. I mean, we're talking about giving AI a lot of power here. How can we be sure that it's not going to, go rogue and start writing buggy code or even malicious code?
That's a great question. And Anthropic seems to be taking this very seriously. They've talked about the rigorous testing and validation process that Claude 3.7 Sonnet has gone through, and they're saying that it's much better than previous models at distinguishing between harmful and benign requests.
Okay, that is reassuring. But how do we even define harmful and benign when it comes to code? I mean, it's not always a clear-cut distinction.
Yeah, that's true. And this is where the human element is still super important.
Yeah.
We need to remember that AI is a tool, and like any tool, it can be used for good or for bad. So it's up to us, as developers and as a society, to ensure that AI is used responsibly and ethically. We need to have clear guidelines, implement strong safety measures, and foster a culture of responsible AI development.
Okay, so you've given us a lot to think about here. We've talked about Claude 3.7 Sonnet's architecture, its ability to think fast and slow, the potential of Claude Code, and the need to think about ethics. I don't know about you, but I'm feeling a little overwhelmed.
Yeah, it's a lot to take in, and we've only just scratched the surface. There's so much more to explore, from the technical details to the implications of this tech for different industries and society as a whole.
And that's exactly what we'll be doing in the next part of this deep dive. So stay tuned
Yeah.
because it's going to get even more fascinating.
Welcome back to our deep dive on Anthropic's Claude 3.7 Sonnet.
You know, after that whole discussion about Claude Code and AI ethics, I think I'm ready to geek out on some of the technical stuff.
Perfect, because that's what we're going to do. In this part, we're diving into the architecture of Claude 3.7 Sonnet, and we're going to see what really makes this model tick.
Okay, lay it on me. What's under the hood of this AI beast?
Well, the first thing to know is that Claude 3.7 Sonnet isn't just one big neural network. It's actually a really complex system made up of multiple modules all interconnected. And each of these modules is specialized for a specific task.
Oh, so it's like having a team of AI specialists all working together. One for language processing, one for reasoning, one for coding, and so on.
Exactly. This modular design is what makes Claude 3.7 Sonnet so versatile. It can switch between tasks super smoothly, using the right module for the job.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But I'm curious, how do these modules even communicate with each other? Is there some kind of central control unit that's running the whole show?
That's a great question. And the answer is no, there isn't a single control unit. All the modules actually communicate with each other through a system called message passing, kind of like a network of computers, each with its own job, sharing information and working together.
Okay, so we've got all these specialized modules working together. But what's the underlying tech that's powering this whole system? I mean, isn't it all just ones and zeros at the end of the day?
True, but those ones and zeros are organized in a really specific way. At the heart of Claude 3.7 Sonnet, there's a super powerful neural network. You've probably heard of neural networks before, but this one is special. It's been trained on a massive amount of data, text, and code, so it can learn these intricate patterns and relationships that humans could never even grasp.
We're talking like a neural network on steroids, right? But training something this complex must be a huge undertaking. How does Anthropic even do it?
It's pretty fascinating. Imagine feeding this neural network a huge library of information, like books, articles, code repositories, even scientific papers. Then the network analyzes all this data, looking for patterns and relationships. And through a process called backpropagation, it basically adjusts the connections between its artificial neurons, fine-tuning its ability to do all these different tasks.
So it's kind of like teaching a child by showing them a bunch of examples and helping them learn from their mistakes.
Yeah, that's a good analogy. But instead of giving a child a gold star or a timeout, we're adjusting the math behind the neural network.
All right, I'm with you so far.
Yeah.
But let's talk about some of the things that make Claude 3.7 Sonnet really stand out. You said earlier that it's a hybrid reasoning model. What exactly does that mean?
That's a really important point. Claude 3.7 Sonnet brings together two different approaches to AI reasoning. We've got symbolic reasoning, which is based on logic and rules. It's like a computer program following instructions. And then there's deep learning, which uses pattern recognition and statistics, more like the way our brains learn from experience.
So it's like having two thinking styles, one that's logical and rule-based, and the other that's intuitive and based on experience.
Exactly. By combining these two approaches, Anthropic has built a model that's both logically sound and really adaptable. It can follow rules when it needs to, but it can also learn from new data and adjust its approach as it goes.
I see. And that's what lets Claude 3.7 Sonnet perform so well on all these different tasks, right? You can write code, solve math problems, understand language, like a jack of all trades.
Precisely. And it's also what makes Claude 3.7 Sonnet really good at explaining its reasoning, because it can trace its thinking back to the logical rules and the patterns that it's learned. It offers a level of transparency that a lot of other AI models don't have.
That's huge.
Yeah.
Especially when you're using AI in important fields like healthcare or finance. You need to know why the AI is making the choices it does.
Absolutely. And then you've also got the whole idea of extended thinking, which we talked about a bit in the first part. This is another big innovation with Claude 3.7 Sonnet.
Yeah, remind me, how does extended thinking work again? Is it just like giving the AI more time to think?
You could put it that way. In standard mode, Claude 3.7 Sonnet works like most AI models, responding quickly. But in extended thinking mode, it takes a more step-by-step approach. It really thinks things through, considers different perspectives, and explores multiple solutions.
So instead of just giving the first answer that pops into its head, it's actually taking the time to reason through the problem.
Exactly. And this is incredibly useful for tasks that require deep thought or complex problem solving. It lets developers see how the model is arriving at its conclusions, catch any potential biases, and even learn from the model's thought process.
I'm starting to understand why Anthropic is so excited about this model. It's not just about performance. It's about creating an AI that's more transparent, more understandable, and more trustworthy.
That's it. And all of this comes together because of the modular architecture, the powerful neural network, the hybrid reasoning, and the extended thinking mode. It's a testament to Anthropic's vision for what AI can be.
Well, I'm sold.
Yeah.
But let's not get too bogged down on the technical stuff. What really matters is how all of this is actually used out there in the real world.
You got it. And that's what we're going to be talking about in the final part of our deep dive. We'll look at some real-world examples of Claude 3.7 Sonnet being used and how it's already starting to change different industries.
Can't wait to see what this AI can do out in the wild. Okay, so for everyone listening who loves tech, welcome back for the last part of our deep dive into Claude 3.7 Sonnet. We've looked at the architecture, talked about the hybrid reasoning thing, and now it's time to see it actually doing stuff.
Yeah, and the real-world applications are what makes this so exciting. I mean, we're talking about potential changes across a bunch of different industries.
Okay, I'm all ears. Let's start with coding, since that's the obvious one. We talked about Claude Code before and how it can act on its own, but I want to hear some specific examples. Give me the juicy details.
All right, so picture Canva, the graphic design platform. I bet a lot of you have used it. Well, they've actually been using Claude Code to make their front-end web development process way more efficient.
Wait a minute, Canva, the design tool.
Yeah.
They're using AI to write their code.
Exactly. And it's not just them. Tons of tech companies are starting to test out Claude Code, and the early results are really promising. They're seeing better code, and their developers are getting more done.
So it's not about replacing human developers. It's more like giving them this AI assistant to help with all the tedious coding tasks.
Exactly. It frees up developers to focus on the creative stuff, the things that really need a human touch.
Okay, that makes sense. But let's move beyond coding for a second. What other industries are going to be changed by Claude 3.7 Sonnet?
Healthcare is one where AI can make a huge difference. Just imagine AI tools that can look at medical images and help doctors diagnose things way more accurately than humans can.
That sounds amazing, but also kind of scary. We're talking about people's lives here. How can we even be sure that these AI systems are safe and reliable?
That's a good point, and the people building these systems know that. Rigorous testing is super important in healthcare. But just think about the potential. Faster and more accurate diagnoses, treatment plans that are tailored to each patient's DNA. We could even discover new drugs and therapies.
Okay, yeah, I'm starting to see the bigger picture now. It's not just about making things faster. It's about using AI to solve some of the biggest challenges we're facing. So what about other industries? Where else could Claude 3.7 Sonnet be a game changer?
Well, finance is another big one. I mean, Claude 3.7 Sonnet is great at reasoning and processing tons of data. So it could totally revolutionize things like risk assessment and fraud detection. It could even help financial advisors give better investment advice.
So instead of just going with their gut or looking at old data, they could use AI to make smarter choices. And that could mean better outcomes for everyone.
Exactly. And these are just a few examples. People are also using AI in education, customer service, even creative fields like writing and music. The possibilities are pretty much endless.
It sounds like Claude 3.7 Sonnet is going to have a huge impact on the world, and it's really exciting to think about all the good it could do.
It is, but we need to remember that with any powerful technology, we have to be careful. We need to understand the risks and make sure AI is used to benefit everyone.
That's a really good point. And I think that's a perfect way to wrap up our deep dive. We've talked about what Claude 3.7 Sonnet can do, where it can be used, and how important it is to use it responsibly. I don't know about you, but I'm walking away with a lot to think about.
Me too. And I hope all of you listening are thinking about the role AI is playing in your lives and in the world.
Because ultimately, the future of AI is up to us. We have the power to shape it. So thanks for joining us, and until next time, stay curious.